Balance is fundamental to my working process, and my painting project was born out of a need to try and create work that was tangible and real after working commercially for predominantly in the digital sphere for a few years. And so I took a little sabbatical away from commercial work and went away and made my own paintings based on the exhibition of minerals and gemstones in the Geological Museum in Copenhagen. Again, I don't feel like I'm really betraying my own sense of judgment here, because there's no denying they are reduced and abstracted versions of real objects. But still, to be able to work directly with a canvas and to work directly with paint, I found was really enriching, and that joy is fed back into my more commercial work too. I hope to continue with the painting, and like I said at the beginning, I think balance is fundamental, so I will continue with this, but at the same time I really enjoy being sat down at my desk drawing motorcycles 50 times. So I think with the painting project in particular, and with a lot of my pencil drawings, I like to improvise my way through the drawing, starting and not really knowing where it's going to finish. This is in it contrasts directly with how I work generally, and for me it keeps things fresh, and I kind of enjoy the thrill of drawing and not really knowing where it's going to go, where it's going to take me. As opposed to working digitally, where you can constantly Command Z and backtrack, this is more like walking a tightrope or drawing a tightrope, where you don't really know where it's going to go until it's finished. So I moved from the UK to Copenhagen 5 years ago for many reasons really, but one of them in particular was I feel like I was going a little bit stale, living semi-rurally in the south of England, and craved the kind of friction that you need from living in a city, where inspiration is everywhere, it's out your front door, and just going for a walk, you can see things that you just seem somehow permeate into your mind, and they stay there and then pop up somewhere else. And so I really felt like living in a city, and in particular Copenhagen has inspired me greatly, and I'm probably as productive now as I have been in a long time, purely because it's a different environment. And I think being challenged by moving into a different country really it kind of wakes you up. It wakes you up to seeing the world and appreciating what's directly in front of you. Whereas, staying in the same place a lot of the time, everything becomes normalized. Whereas today I can look out the window and I can see a road sign, and the road sign is still weirdly alien to me after 5 years, or the way the signage or posters are composed differently. Design is everywhere, and it's different to what I'm used to being in the UK. And I hope it continues to inspire me for the next 5 years, 15 years, 20 years, however long that takes. You could say that I'm a reductionist at heart, and my process has always involved starting very simple drawings on pieces of paper, random pieces of paper. But I guess if you're a reductionist, you need to start somewhere to start the reduction process. So I tend to draw whatever the subject matter is many times. With this particular image, maybe between 40 and 50 times, just to try and get and distill the information that I'm trying to convey across in a graphical form which says as much as it possibly can, as easily and as quickly as possible. Having said that, I'm really into the idea of showing imagery where the beauty is in the imperfection. And so I try not to be too controlled. I try to keep things loose and free, and by using layers of tracing paper or layout paper, I can quickly replicate the image again and then slightly tweak it. And it's these little tweaks, when the circle isn't completely round and when the lines aren't completely straight, it's in these little moments where I find the magic. I think it seems almost like a contradiction in terms to say that I'm like reducing and trying to find perfection in imperfection, but like it's my process and it doesn't necessarily make sense to a lot of people. And I don't think a lot of people would necessarily see such a relatively laborious process in the majority of my work that I'm known for, because the end product is usually very simple and very graphic and using a limited amount of color. With this particular drawing, it was purely self-initiated. And I really like the idea of working along the ideas of this old motorbike, but then to draw a circle, like, you know, motorbikes have wheels and wheels are round and everyone knows they have to read that particular way. But I wanted to make it work so it still read as a motorbike, but it wasn't perfect. It was appropriated and abstracted. And so to start off with one drawing like this, and then to trace it, and then draw it again, 3 more times, again and again and again and again. The first time I'm not happy with the way this circle is working, so I try it again, and it's still not happy. And I'm trying to take the information of, I think it was a Royal Enfield motorbike that I found online, and just reduce it right back. And so that takes time for me, and I think to get to a final process involves taking the drawing, like rubbing it out, starting again, going away, completely leaving it, and then coming back and thinking, what would I change? Sometimes overnight, I can go back to an image and look at it and think, that's not right, that doesn't work. It's really a pursuit of imperfection, which sounds ridiculous. It's a total contradiction in terms, but that's where I find the enjoyment and the magic for me in creating line work in particular. I think when I work more graphically in color, yeah, I can tweak things, I can move things around, I can digitally manipulate the imperfection again and again and again, so it happens as part of the process. But when you're drawing in line, there's nowhere to hide. It's completely naked and exposed. And so the only way to make it work is to redraw it. And, you know, when you're working completely in an analog way, there's no way of Command Z. You can't go back and change it. And if I rub it out, especially in pencil, then you can see where I've rubbed it out, and doesn't work for me. So the only solution is to redraw. So what I tend to do is start really small, almost like thumbnails in my sketchbook. And then I'll print that out and then trace over that small drawing bigger, and then work back into the details and then take the details away. It's a constant process of adding and taking away, drawing and redrawing, until I get to a point where eventually I'm kind of happy. Having said that, I look at it now and I think I would change that. I would change the way I've drawn the hand. I'm not quite happy with the way that the exhaust pipe is working there, or that I don't think the scarf is long enough. And so I think that probably says enough about the process and the fact that it takes a long time to get to a point where I'm vaguely satisfied. But the end process with this particular image was a screen print that was printed in the UK. And it was using a combination of the line work and colour and halftone. And so I was printed in 2 different colours, in blue and pink. As an example, this was it's probably a good way of showing how a process can start from a simple like thumbnail drawing and then become nothing but a simple idea, almost like something drawn on the back of a napkin, to become an actual physical product. And I think that's super important to me, that the whole process is as analog as possible. I need to feel the friction of the pencil on the paper. I need to feel like I've got dirt in my hands. I need to feel like whatever I'm making or creating is crafted, especially, you know, in this day and age when everything is digital, and like for a lot of my commercial work, for sure, you know, the digital aspect is mandatory. But for personal work, I feel like this is tangible and real, and there's a texture to it. And you can really feel and sense the imperfection and the work and the craft that's gone into it. And I guess that's what I'm trying to say, is I'm trying to make work that is simple, simplified, yet highly crafted at the same time. So there's a balance between the simplicity and the sophistication, and it's just in that little space between the simplicity and the sophistication is where I find the sweet spot, and that's what I aspire to in most of my projects. My inspiration and my passion for minimalist graphic design pretty much started from birth. I had a frieze, an alphabet frieze of Dick Bruner's work, his animal scene on my bedroom wall as a baby. I think a lot of people of my generation, born in the 70s, would have started, their visual journey with the work of Dick Bruner. But then, as when I was at university in London in the 90s, I was very much into the mid-century design scene, and in particular the music of Blue Note records. And it's there I first got switched on to the graphic aesthetic, found in this particular book called Modern Publicity 1960 to 61 that we had in our library. And it's in this book I found the work of Raiahai Yanagihara and Saul Bass. And Saul Bass was my gateway into a love and passion of posters design in particular. This guy was a complete master of both, but also inspired me to think that it could, my artwork could go further than just the illustrated page, and like posters and having work that's seen and contextualized in urban spaces is something that I really aspire to, and still to this day do. And like Paul Rand was a particular master when it comes to this particular aesthetic of trying to say as much as you possibly can with minimum means and high impact artwork and design.